Is Stetson Bennett good enough to play in the NFL one day? That is the big question I have for you this week. A friend of mine earlier this week sent me a snippet of Skip Bayless, ESPN analyst, talking about this very question about Stetson Bennett. He said the day after Georgia's national championship win about Stetson, I think he can be a career, very valuable backup quarterback in the NFL. He's got some mobility to him. He's got real savvy and poise. Not exactly going to help him in the NFL. His arm isn't bad, Skip said. He's right there. Maybe a seventh-round pick who could stick as a backup. Now, we all know that he does not have ideal NFL size or ideal NFL arm strength or accuracy, but the guy can play. He's coming off an excellent 2021 season where of course, he led the Bulldogs to a national championship. If he were NFL ready, he would have left, right? There's a reason he came back to Georgia. He's going to make a lot of NIL money, probably more this year than he would have if he would have gone to the NFL and maybe, were picked in the 7th round or picked as a free agent. So life is good right now if you're Stetson Bennett, but this is going to be his last year at Georgia. And eventually he's going to have to make that decision. Hey, is it going to work out in the NFL? He's going to give it a shot. And I do think he might get drafted one day. But I think a lot of people initially say, oh no, there's no way. Of course, he's too small. He turns the ball over, which really isn't that correct. But he's made some NFL throws. The one against Florida, he didn't play great against the Gators, but he had a throw to Kyrus Jackson that was 55 yards in the air for a touchdown. Perfect ball placement, exactly where it needed to be. So he can make throws. I think Michigan fans will tell you, we'd love Stetson Bennett to be the backup for the Detroit Lions, right? Beautiful pass to James Cook in that game that I believe went for about 50 yards in the air. The touchdown to A.D. Mitchell, one of the biggest throws in Georgia Bulldog history, right? Threw it from the 50-yard line. It probably would have landed about 5 yards into the end zone where A.D. Mitchell caught that ball. So that ball was 55 yards in the air. The throw to James Cook against Michigan and Jermaine Burton against Michigan really were perfect balls on the dot. He had a beautiful ball to James Cook against Tennessee. So if we're talking about, throwing the ball deep, Stetson Bennett can do that. Now, he's not going to exactly do that in the NFL because guys aren't going to be as open as they were for him all season. And he can thank Todd Monken for that, creating ways for the receivers to get open. But when they're open, Stetson Bennett knows how to hit these guys in stride down the field. But he knows where to put the ball. And he's not going to throw, rockets. He doesn't have a laser arm, but he throws a catchable ball right now at the college level. So, I don't see him coming into the NFL and, tearing it up. You can be a little smaller and succeed in the NFL, but you have to have precise accuracy like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson had. And you have to run fast. He's not as fast as Kyler Murray and a few other guys, Lamar Jackson, of course, but he can move well enough to be a very good college quarterback. I've got his stats. I thought I had his stats in front of me. They're right here. Last year, he threw for over 2,800 yards, 29 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. So, yes, every once in a while he will make a boneheaded throw. Had a couple bad interceptions against Florida. Had the turnover late against Alabama. Not exactly his fault. That was really good defense. He tried to throw the ball away. Ended up being a fumble. But he came back from that, right? A lot of people, kind of dismiss what he did against Alabama because he really wasn't that good for 3.5 quarters. But when it came down to it, the kid is a gamer. He's a winner. He took those last 2 drives, threw the ball down the field, and won the game kind of with his arm at the end of that Alabama game to win a national championship. So he's a multi-year starter now. He's a smart kid. He distributes the ball well. He gets it to his guys, in stride again, and he knows pre-snap where he wants to go. He knows, hey, I've got James Cook on a linebacker. This is where I'm going. Okay, if they have a blown assignment, the ball's going to Brock Bowers. And he threw some great passes to Brock Bowers last year. The long one against Kentucky put it up there for him to snag it away from the defender. There were a couple balls where he threw. Another one was to a touchdown to Brock Bowers, where he threw it before he could get his head turned around, right? He throws with anticipation. And he made some throws I don't think Jake Fromm would have made last year. I think I said in another video last week, Stetson Bennett's 2021 season was better than any season we saw from Jake Fromm in his 3 years. And he threw the ball down the field. He lit up UAB down the field. He lit up Michigan down the field through the air. He had a perfect ball to Arian Smith against Missouri. So can he make an NFL roster? I think he could. He's going to have to be on his A game for that pro day or that workout or, NFL combine, whatever he is. but he's not going to be a first guy off the bus type. And just looking at him, I mean, he kind of barely looks like a premier college football player, right? He doesn't have the size that every other quarterback on the roster has. He's not as thick or, kind of big as Gunnar Stockton, who is the incoming freshman, right? So he's not as big as Carson Beck, Brock Vandagriff, and he doesn't have the arm talent they do, but he's a winner. He knows how to play, quarterback, and he can deliver the ball down the field better than people think. Some of his best throws were, again, when the ball's 50 yards in the air. So he can stretch a defense. He can throw it, beyond defenders, and he can hit guys in stride down the field. So hit a couple big passes to George Pickens. So the more I watch him, the more I dig into him. Again, I don't think he's going to take over starting position and lead them to a Super Bowl anytime soon, but I think he could possibly have a better NFL career than Jake Fromm, right? Who I think played a couple games last year and wasn't great. I don't think anyone expects anything from Jake Fromm, and I really do hate comparing the two, but it's just easier because they were the last two guys to start multiple years at Georgia. And he took over for Jake Fromm. And I always think if Jake Fromm were, if he did come back and play as a senior and play in 2020, what does that mean for Stetson Bennett? Because I don't think he's taken over that job in 2020 and had the season he did 2 years ago if Jake Fromm is still there. And who knows if he's the guy in 2021 because he wouldn't have played in 2020 if Jake Fromm were still around. So that was big news for Stetson Bennett. Of course, he came in, took the reins, took the job this year when JT Daniels was going through the injury or kind of whatever it was. It had to have been an injury, but Stetson has showed that he can win games with his arm. He is mobile. He can make plays with his feet. He is a smart quarterback, and he doesn't turn the ball over as much as people think he does. A lot of that was early in his career. Again, he didn't play well against the Gators, and occasionally he'll throw it across his body and into dangerous territory that maybe won't get picked off. But for the most part, I keep going back to the Michigan game because he did everything right. He lit up Michigan defense, and a lot of people thought was really good. It was the second biggest game of the college football season, and he wasn't nickel and diming them down the field. He threw some big time passes deep down the field, and he executed, and he really beat them pretty good. It wasn't close, and he played an outstanding game. So played great against Kentucky, who was the top 10 team. Played really well against Auburn. The ball he had to Ladd McConkey deep down the field was one of the biggest plays in the game. Hit him in stride, led to a touchdown. He also had another deep throw against Auburn to Brock Bowers and another one to Ladd McConkey. So when given an opportunity, he can complete a lot of passes, get the drive going, and lead them to a touchdown. He's turned into a very good college quarterback. Can he play in the NFL? I think Skip isn't really too far off. I think he could be drafted in possibly the 6th or 7th round. A lot of this depends on how he does, in his final year. But is he going to get better? He's not going to get a whole lot bigger. Can his arm really get stronger? I think we've seen what Stetson Bennett is going to be from now on, for the rest of his football career. I think he's hit his ceiling, but I think he could provide some quality depth for an NFL team down the road. I know I'm pulling for him. I know a lot of Georgia fans are pulling for him, hoping that's the case. One NFL analyst thinks he could make an NFL roster, at least a camp invite, and possibly get drafted. What do you think? Can Stetson Bennett one day play in the NFL? He's had a really good college career so far, so I think it's possible. What do you think? Of course, drop your comment in the comment section. We love reading those. We really do get a kick out of what y'all have to say. So drop your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching this video. As always, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now, and I will see you over on Dog Post.